Okay, so we just went through the very difficult task of really trying to wrap our heads around how we wanted the vertical position to change over time. We've got that working. Now this video is going to be pretty straightforward compared to the last one. We are just going to add some indicators. You might have done that already. And we're going to do a little bit of script cleanup just to keep things neat and tidy. So let's start by adding those indicators, and it turns out, again, we want to do it exactly the same way as we did it before, so we can actually just take these lines of code here. We hit Control-C to copy those. We come underneath of this ball.ypos line that we made, and we hit Control-V, and we'll paste them. And that's pretty much all we got to do here. We're going to go ahead and change this to indicator 2 because we do want to have a different colored indicator there. We also should come back, I should have done this at the end of the last video, but we should come back up here and change our acceleration back to 10. We don't want, we want to simulate gravity here on Earth, right? So we're going to stick with 10 during this this particular simulator. But now this should just run. We can go ahead and run this. And if we start hitting the V key, we'll notice that ball has that same motion, but now leaves behind a trail of green dots for us. And if we mouse over one of those green dots, for the most part, that looks pretty good. Its horizontal position is 0, but the one big issue is that the horizontal velocity says 50. And that's because we set the horizontal velocity right up at the top of the script, and we never bothered to change it. So our V key, pressing the V key doesn't actually pay any attention to that horizontal velocity, but it's still labeled wrong, and so we should fix that. We'll come down here underneath of our clock value in the V button area, and we'll just type in ball.yvel, sorry, xvel is what we want, right? Where we're looking at the horizontal velocity equals 0. Right? And we'll just change that so that it reads out right. We also, now that we can think about though, later on we might want to be able to press the V key a bunch, reset things, and then press the H key a bunch. And so probably in the H key section here, since we're changing the y velocity to 0 under the vertical motion, we should probably change it back to 50 in the horizontal motion to make sure that's going to work in the future. Let's go ahead, while we're here, let's take this clock value. We should have done this in the first place. We're doing things in a different order. We should try and keep that in the same order. We're just going to move that clock value line up above the ball.xpos. That way it matches the vertical motion. We're adding to the time before we do anything else. That's probably a good way to do things. So then after we add that clock value, we're going to do ball.xvel equals 50. All right, and so that way when we press the H button, it'll change that horizontal velocity back to 50, and it'll add the correct number instead of adding 0 if we had changed it to 0 here in V and then pressed H, right? Another just small little thing of cleanup here while we're here, since we are changing the position in our main loop now, and the ball is always watching to see what position it is, we can actually go ahead and get rid of this move sprite because that'll happen in our main loop now. We don't actually need this anymore. And so we'll just get rid of a little bit of clutter there. So if we run it now, we can press the V key, and if we mouse over one of these dots, we have the correct vertical position and the correct horizontal velocity. Everything's looking really nice now. Let's go ahead and tackle some combined motion as well, since, again, that's pretty straightforward. Everything we've done so far in this particular video is pretty easy. So combined motion, we're going to press the C key for combined motion. So if you'd like to, you guys are probably old hats at this point, you go ahead and pause it and do this yourself. So if we press the C key, well, what do we want to do? Well, first we want to go ahead and add that clock value like usual, right? But then we want to do our horizontal motion, and we want to do our vertical motion. So I'm going to start by just grabbing this horizontal motion portion. Control-C, come down here, Control-V, okay? And now for the vertical part, well, we've already added a clock value, so we don't need that part again. We don't want to change our xvel because we do want horizontal motion when we have combined motion. We want this next line, we want this next line, and we got the rest of it from our horizontal motion. So we're just going to copy these 3 lines here. We're going to put them underneath of that xpos line there, and we're going to change our indicator to be indicator 3. So that should give us a nice yellow dot. And so you can see, again, we did a lot of the hard work earlier, and so now that's kind of paying off. We can just copy our old lines of code and paste them in here and use them again. And so now if we press the C key, we should get a nice combined motion, and we should leave behind a trail of yellow dots. So that's pretty straightforward as well. Like I said, the horizontal motion was fairly simple. The vertical motion is where it gets really tough, but the combined motion is just that part that we already figured out, that tough part of the vertical plus that simple horizontal. And so it's pretty straightforward after we get that vertical stuff done. Now let's go ahead and add one more thing here before we call our, we're actually going to go ahead and finish up our simulator, the simple version. We'll have some more videos for if you want to add continuous motion, if you want to add vectors as well. Those will be in the next video, little vector lines to draw. But as far as getting a functioning projectile simulator, you guys are pretty much done. The only thing that we really want to have left is what if we wanted to reset and get all three of those colors up at once so that we could compare them all. So let's do another event key. If we press the R button, so that's for reset, right? Well, what do we want to do? Basically, we just want to get everything back to normal. So we want to set the clock value equal to 0. All right, we want to reset that so we can start over. We want to set, and actually, rather than type all this in, I'm going to come up here. I'm just going to copy all this because those are our initial values, right? This is how we started the program. We want to reset that to be, oh, we didn't tab in right there. Let's go ahead and make sure those are all in line. Okay. And let's see, we do want to change the clock label again because we want it to reflect the fact that we're back to 0 time, so that we can start over when we press our next button. And that should be good. Maybe I'm forgetting something, but I think that right there should do it for us. So if we come in here, we run this again. If we press the H key a bunch of times, all right, that's looking pretty good. And if we press the R button, it resets. Notice the clock reset. If we start tapping the V key, we get some green dots there. If we press the R key again, we have reset one more time. Now if we press the C key, well, look at that. We have some, and the nice thing about seeing all these dots up here at once is that we can compare them, right? Notice that this yellow dot, to make things easy, we'll skip that first one because it's pretty tight in there. That first yellow dot, it matches up horizontally with the second yellow dot, matches up really nicely horizontally with the second red dot. They're at the same position and the same horizontal velocity. And notice that it also matches up really well with that second green dot. They're at the same vertical position and the same vertical velocity. And so combined, so projectile motion here is just the combination of whatever its horizontal motion is plus whatever its vertical motion is. And we can demonstrate that really nicely. So congratulations, you have a fully functioning projectile simulator. You code it all by yourself. So like I said, in the next video, we'll start looking into things like vector lines, and then after that, we'll get into some combined or some continuous motion too. So you can press a button just one time, and then it'll just run continuously.